listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Radio Show, only on Financial News and Talk. Now live in studio, your host, local and national real estate expert and consumer advocate, Ron Siegel.
And hello again. Welcome to Ron Siegel Radio. This is the show with no real boundaries as we discuss current events, financial markets, politics, sports, even poking fun at the rest of the media. This is the show that connects the dots of confusion. Delivered by conflicting media reports. We connect the dots so you know the actions you can take, how your family or business can benefit from current events. Most of all, thank you for joining me. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day. We have a very focused show. We only chat about items that affect the roof over your head, your bank account, and anything I feel would benefit you. But before we get into our intriguing content today, please join me in welcoming our featured guest and repeater on Ron, repeat offender, I should say.
I know, I was going to say, it sounds like a repeat offender.
Repeat offender on Ron Siegel Radio. Sarah Perkins, Blue Water Credit, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you with us. And let me remind you, if you ever have any home or finance related questions, I am the consumer advocate looking out for you. And you can reach out to me directly, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. Just remember, that's the number you call anytime for assistance. When you call that number, it comes directly to me first. There are operators standing by.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
While I do have a great team when it comes to developing a financing plan, a plan to save you money, I personally work with you, even if you don't have any needs today. Save this number in your phone for future reference, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And yes, of course, we're celebrating today. We celebrate every day on Ron Siegel Radio. There's a lot on here to celebrate today. I don't know about the food part. And maybe you know, I don't know if you follow Sarah on social media. She does all this health and fitness guru stuff. And I got to be careful here because I am not the fit person on this panel. But today's National Houseplant Appreciation Day.
It is what it is.
Save the Eagles Day. Okay, I like that one. Dog behavior isn't normal. What dog behavior is normal? Cut your energy cost day. A little cold here in Southern California. Most of California is cold. So I don't know anybody that's going to be cutting their energy costs today, but we'll see. National Oysters Rockefeller Day. I like Oysters Rockefeller. Those look good too. And, you know, I will admit, I'd probably lose a whole lot of weight if the only candy that was around was bittersweet chocolate or dark chocolate. Not a big fan of, I guess they're too healthy. Although dark chocolate, 70% was really, really good with some port wine or cab. Yeah, so there are some times that the dark chocolate's okay. Most of the time, I'm staying away. Okay. And maybe, you know, maybe I'd lose a pound or 10 or 20 or 30 or what. I'm going to stop right there. Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 24 points. The S&P 500 is up 7. The NASDAQ is up 44. Oil is up 13 cents a barrel. And the 10-year Treasury is up ever so slightly. Not enough to even talk about. 4.021 is the yield on the 10-year Treasury. A lot going on in the investment world, as even though we're waiting for the big news tomorrow. Now, I don't know if you follow this, and most people probably don't. Another one of those fake news issues. So for about 20 or 30 seconds yesterday, there was a fake news story that the SEC had approved the Bitcoin ETF. I am not a fan of cryptos of any sort. I don't understand them. And maybe it's just because I'm getting old. I remember probably 25 years ago when I was at Merrill Lynch. I think that's about when I was at Merrill Lynch. And the .com world was going crazy. And all these companies were the stock prices were going sky high. And I'm not going to put myself in this category, but I did learn from it. Warren Buffett said, I don't understand why stocks go up, and I'm paraphrasing, for companies that are losing money. I think I'm going to stick with the old staples that everybody knows and everybody needs or wants. Coca-Cola, Wells Fargo, things like that. Insurance. I kind of say the same thing with Bitcoin. I look at it and say, I don't understand it. I think I'm going to stay away from it. And I know there's been people that have made a lot of money in Bitcoin because at one point it was at $60,000 a coin, went down to 25 or 30. Now it's back to 45,000. I don't get it. I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with it. I'm out. Just throw that out there. Not that anybody cares what I'm invested in, but I'm just saying be careful of what you invest in. I like things that I know are going to be around for a while. And I would share right now, even though it might be a little bit of a farce or controversial. No advice here, but if I was buying stock for myself today, I'm looking at Boeing aircraft, right? Their stock's been going down, even though the plane didn't, thank goodness. But, when great companies have hiccups in the road, there's only like 2 main airplane manufacturers. Do you think we're going to stop making airplanes? So they're going to get this solved, and that stock price is going to go back up. Just throw that out there for you. Buy when there's blood in the street. That's the old adage of the traders. So just throw that out there. But what I was getting at was for about 10 seconds, there was a commentary that the Bitcoin ETF had been approved. Turns out it has not been approved, had not been approved then either. But the stock took it, the coins went up a lot and came back down again. Just watching these things going on. But, it's probably, you could track the Bitcoin issues probably easier than you can track the president's cabinet. Yeah, because they're missing in action too. Can you imagine that the president of the United States has not met with his entire cabinet since October of last year? October. Now, I know there's just a few things going on in the world. I would expect that the president of the United States has probably met with his cabinet, weekly, if not daily. But he didn't know that the Secretary of Defense, pretty important position. Secretary of Defense, he's been MIA. He's fighting prostate cancer, which I guess is an elective surgery. Do you elect that you want to have surgery or you want to die? Was that the election that you get here? I don't understand that one either. Just throw that out there. But hey, I'm going to give you a little foreshadow right now of what we're going to talk about today. One of the most requested topics I get on Ron Siegel Radio is discussing credit reports, credit repair. Are there sources you can go to? And I had this consultation last week, and I had somebody say to me, well, can you give me 3 good credit repair companies that you can refer me to? And I said, no. Very, very simple. I don't do that kind of stuff. That's something you hear that a lot from realtors, and you hear that a lot from people that hedge issues. I said, I give out one, Blue Water Credit. You want a good credit repair company that I know over several years, many years. They do what they say what they do. They tell you if they can help you. They tell you if they can't help you. They tell you to go pan sand. They tell you whatever. But you can count on what they have to say as being accurate every time. Now, I'm not saying they guarantee their work or any of that stuff. I don't put words in anybody's mouth. But I do say they know what they're talking about. They're educated in the industry, and they give sound guidance. Do they charge for it? Of course. They got to feed their families. No, I don't want to go to a cardiologist that's free either. Just throwing that out there. So when we're going to talk this morning with Sarah Perkins when she comes on after the break, we're going to chat about credit repair or cleaning up your credit report. And it's not that fake, bogus fraud stuff that you hear all the time. It's not that, we're going to send out a letter to everybody that's on your credit report saying it's not mine. No, they understand the law. And there's enough laws out there to make sure that your credit report is reporting accurately. Hey, if it's yours, it's yours. But it's kind of like a defense attorney. Think about this. And I never thought that I would say this, and I don't know. We'll talk to Sarah when we come back about it. But what's the job of a criminal defense attorney? Well, I never understood it completely until I interviewed one here on Ron Siegel Radio. And I said, hey, Ron, my job is not to say whether my client did it or didn't do it. My job is to make sure that their constitutional rights, the law, is adhered to. Well, on your credit report, it's kind of the same thing. You may have a bunch of late items on your credit report, but the trade line that's there has to adhere to the law. And that's what our friends at Blue Water Credit understand. And we're going to talk to Sarah about that when we come back. We're also going to chat about avoiding common mistakes after applying for a mortgage. And maybe, if we get to it, may not get to it again today, how a New Year's spending fast can help you get back on track financially. All that and more. Reach me anytime. Off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or RonSiegelRadio.com. Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio. Your home and mortgage connection.
Hey there, friends. Wondering if now is the right time to buy a home? Or are you waiting for a bunch of foreclosures? The facts speak loud and clear. Defaults and foreclosures are down, sure. We might be headed towards a recession. But did you know interest rates typically drop and real estate values often go up during a recession? So what are you waiting for? Higher prices or higher payments? Don't navigate these waters alone. Connect with RonSiegelRadio.com today. That's RonSiegelRadio.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The Mortgage Minute today being brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. Every day at this time, OBMMI, they provide the most comprehensive, accurate, timely, and interactive analysis of pricing ever conducted in the mortgage industry, calculated from actual locked rates. This does not take into account APR, points paid, or points received. Just quite simply the locked rate. But they've got a 42% market share. It's all 42% of all mortgage transactions nationwide. Conforming rates yesterday, they were up a little bit, locked at 6.683. Jumbo rates down a little bit, 7.27. FHA rates, I'm getting kind of seasick here. They were up a little bit, 6.496. USDA rates, those were up yesterday. Those are the rural areas, generally no down payment, 6.514. And the best loan on the market for those that earned it. And yes, we have earned our designation as a veteran mortgage advisor, even though I never served in the military. But we love our veterans. And yes, our lending team is the #1 lending team in America for Homes for Heroes. The 30-year VA loan, 6.171. Best loan on the market. It was down yesterday. And if you want our market commentary, we get that out as early as the data will allow each morning. rsrmarketminute.com, rsrmarketminute.com. Let's see what's going on today now. If we look at what's going on in the markets today, I just gave you what's going on, what happened yesterday. The S&P 500 now is up 10 points. The 10-year Treasury is flat, 4.017. Mortgage-backed securities are down 3 basis points. Doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot because that's, and remember, bond down 3 basis points. That means interest rates are up, but you're not going to even notice it because it's such a small area right there. CoreLogic Home Price Index reported that home prices rose 0.2% in November, are now up 5.2% year over year. The November reading is another new all-time high in home prices. CoreLogic forecasts that home prices will fall 0.2% in December. I doubt it. And will rise by 2.5% over the next 12 months, understated. Although they are historically very conservative based on the gains seen in the 11 months of the year, the CoreLogic report is on pace for roughly 7% appreciation in 2023. That might be a little hot for the year. We don't necessarily agree with CoreLogic that home prices will decline in December, especially after I looked at the home MBS highway survey that showed that the national home price direction increased 11 points in the month to 52 back in the expansion area. And that's just a survey of actual loan officers and realtors on the street. Tomorrow, we're going to get the CPI report. That's going to be big information. That'll drive the market. So the market is expecting a headline inflation increase from 3.1 to somewhere between 3.2 and 3.3. CoreLogic, they're looking at the core. For those that don't need food, don't need energy, that's what the Federal Reserve looks at. The market is expecting year-over-year figure to decline from 4% to somewhere between 3.8 and 3.9%. We'll see what happens on all of that. Oil prices declined 8% in December. Used cars declined 0.5% to 1.2%, according to Manheim and Car Guru. So we'll see how that impacts the reports. And all that will be coming to us tomorrow. So we'll see what happens from there. That is the Mortgage Minute, brought to you by our friends at Geneva Financial. When you're ready for that next home loan, Geneva's got the programs and the products. You just need to make the call, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. So if you were with us in the first segment, I told you my favorite and only go-to company and person, Blue Water Credit. If you're needing some help with your credit report, if you want to make sure it's completely accurate, and I'll tell you this. I mean, I did a report earlier this year, which means it was in the last couple of weeks, that said that there are about 1.6% of the credit reports in America have an 850 FICO score. I will tell you the best number I have ever seen is an 834. It was a 93-year-old individual that, and he was upset with me that his score wasn't better than that. So at 93 years old. But I'm going to share with you that I haven't seen it better than 834. Sarah Perkins is with us, Blue Water Credit. Sarah, have you seen an 850?
I don't think I've ever seen an 850. It's pretty tough to get.
Yeah, I would imagine. And I'm sure that knowing the gentleman that I saw the 834, he didn't do anything to work on his report to try and make sure that there was accuracies. Because when I looked at that report, and I've looked at hundreds, maybe thousands of reports, in my career. Our friends at Blue Water Credit probably do that every month, but that's a whole different story. I saw errors on his report at 834. Does it matter? Does it really matter if somebody has an 834, Sarah? Does it make any sense to work to get the other 16 points?
I mean, I think you always need to be looking out for your credit. There's identity theft on the rise. I don't know as far as from a lending point if it makes much of a difference in the interest rates, but you definitely want to be checking on your credit report frequently and making sure that there aren't errors reported.
So before we get into some of the topics that we want to chat about today, did I miss any in my introduction in the last segment, or my monologue in the last segment about my personal opinions and credit and making sure that your report's accurate? Did I miss anything in there?
No, I mean, I think you mentioned, a lot of like the false information that's out there, the gurus that think that they know everything or try to do things the shady way to get things removed. And, there are laws out there to protect the consumers and the lenders. And that's what Blue Water Credit is really knowledgeable about. And that's what we work on when we look at your credit.
So let's chat about some of the items that come up on a regular basis. I've had some folks that have called me and they said, well, they're just going to, should I just, we look at their credit report and should I just pay this or should I just pay that and make sure it comes off my credit report? They've got a collection or they've got something that's late. And I talked to them a little bit about re-aging. Can you talk about re-aging? What does that mean? And is there a difference between re-aging and statute of limitations and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so re-aging is a term that kind of gets thrown out there, and it can be used in a couple different ways. But really what it's talking about is changing that date of first delinquency. So when someone first becomes delinquent on their credit and has a derogatory mark, there are rules on how long that can stay on the credit report. So it's typically around 7 years. And what we will see happen is a lot of times if accounts move over to collections or someone purchases the debt, they try to so-called re-age, when that delinquency happens. So they try to put that date as maybe the date that they purchased that debt, so that debt can stay on the credit report longer, giving them more power to try to collect on it. So that date of first delinquency does not change. It is completely illegal to move that date to a different date to benefit the collector, debt buyer, to keep that onto your credit report longer.
So that's an interesting one, because we see frequently that if somebody has a collection and then it gets charged off and it's sold to a debt collector, then it gets re-aged to when they bought it, not when it first happened, and they sell it again and again and again. And sometimes it seems like it's there forever. Is that what you're referring to in this kind of a situation?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we'll run into with some people's credit reports. And yeah, again, that's illegal. You have to go back to the date that they were first delinquent with that original creditor. So even if they decide to make a payment to, say, the new collection agency or the debt buyer, that is not going to so-called re-age the account where they can keep it on your credit report longer. That's when you start getting into the term statute of limitations, which is the amount of time that they have to bring legal action against you. So you can start that clock over and over again by making a payment, or in some states, even like promising to pay can restart that clock. But that is completely different from the credit reporting time period that someone has to keep it on your credit report.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to get into legal advice or anything, but I think the law in California is statute of limitations is 4 years.
Correct. So yeah, every state's different, but yeah, 4 years that they have from your date of first delinquency, or date of the last payment. I'm sorry.
So if I make a $1 payment, that statute of limitations starts all over again?
Exactly. And and that's what the collection agencies and debt buyers, are good at, tricking people into maybe getting started on a payment plan or something that's out of statute. And then now all of a sudden you've given the power back to them to bring legal action against you on something that maybe is not even on your credit report anymore.
Wow. So you got to really, really be careful. So if a debt is sold to a credit, maybe this is even outside the scope of what we want to be talking about, but if a debt is sold, does the collection company have to tell me what the debt is, or talk to me in terms of what's going on there, or do they just say, something, you owe XYZ company?
Yeah, there are some laws in place as far as notifying the consumer that they are now the new owner of the debt, who the original creditor was, and the balance owed. I know I'll see a lot of people out there on social media saying that you have the right to request a copy of like your signed contract, billing statements, and all this elaborate information. And if they don't produce it for you, they're supposed to erase the debt because they don't have, all the evidence that they, own it. But we've seen it go through different appeal court cases. And right now the law is pretty loose that they really just have to supply you with who the original creditor was and the balance that you owe.
Wow, that's pretty interesting, because if they have the balance, what if there's a dispute in the balance? Then what happens? That's kind of an interesting new.
And then
Did I lose something there?
oh, whoops! I think mine was cutting out a little bit there. Sorry, there, Ron.
Okay, no problem. So if I dispute the amount with the collection company, they don't have to have all the data to support their numbers? Is that what you're saying?
They don't they can provide just a bill of sales that they maybe got from the original creditor. But as far as like the specifics of an originally signed contract, all those things aren't technically required. If it goes to as far as like a lawsuit, they may be able to produce it for a court case, but just in a plain old dispute, they are not required to have to supply all that detailed information and, the actual contract information to the consumer.
Very interesting. We're going to continue our conversation with Sarah Perkins, Blue Water Credit. When we come back, you can reach me anytime. Off-air number, 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, RonSiegelRadio.com, Facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube, Ron Siegel, the numeral 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Your home and mortgage connection.
79% of all credit reports have errors that should be corrected through factual disputing. You could be saving thousands every year if your report was accurate. CreditSanitizer.com provides a free credit report audit when you furnish a specific $1 credit report. You can use this information to request corrections to your report and potentially save thousands of dollars. Get your free credit audit at CreditSanitizer.com. That's CreditSanitizer.com for a free credit report audit. CreditSanitizer.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. The real-time real estate segment today being brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Avoid these common mistakes after applying for a mortgage if you're getting ready to buy a new home. It's exciting to jump a few steps ahead and think about moving in and making it your own. But before you get too far down the emotional path, there are some key things to keep in mind after you apply for your mortgage and before you close. Here's a list of things to remember when you apply for your home loan. Do not deposit large sums of cash. Lenders need to source your money, and cash isn't really easily traceable. Before you deposit any cash into your accounts, discuss the proper way to document your transactions with your loan officer. Don't make any large purchases. I have a $500 rule. If you're going to spend more than $500, give me a call. Let's just chat about it. It's not just home-related purchases that could disqualify you from your loan. Any large purchases can be red flags for lenders. People with new debt have higher debt-to-income ratios. How much debt you have compared to your monthly income. Since higher ratios make for riskier loans, borrowers may no longer qualify for their mortgage. Resist the temptation to make any large purchases, even for furniture or appliances. Do not co-sign loans for anyone. When you co-sign a loan, you're making yourself accountable for that loan's success and repayment. With that obligation comes higher debt-to-income ratios as well. Even if you promise you won't be the one making the payments, your lender will have to count them against you. Don't switch bank accounts. Lenders need to source and track your assets. That task is much easier when there's consistency among your accounts. Before you transfer any money, talk to the loan officer. Don't apply for new credit. It doesn't matter whether it's a new credit card or a new car. When your credit report is run by organizations in multiple financial channels, mortgage, credit, auto, it will have an impact on your FICO score. Lower credit scores can determine your interest rate and possibly even your eligibility for approval. And I'm not saying we're going to get a huge change in your score from running the credit report, but if it takes you from a 680 to a 679, that could be a big problem. Don't close any accounts. Many buyers believe having less available credit makes them less risky and more likely to be approved. This isn't true. A major component of your credit score is your length and depth of credit history, as opposed to just your payment history, and your total usage of credit as a percentage of available credit. Remember, all you have to do is go to rsrccpayment.com, rsrccpayment.com, and we'll show you there the right way to pay your credit cards. Even if you pay them in full, many people, like 95% of them that I come across, are paying them wrong for credit scoring purposes. Go to rsrccpayment.com. Closing accounts has a negative impact on both of those parts of your score. Do discuss changes with your lender. Be upfront about any changes that occur or you're expecting to occur when talking with your lender. Blips in income, assets, or credit should be reviewed and executed in a way that ensures your home loan can still be approved. If your job or employment status has changed recently, share that with your lender as well. Ultimately, it's best to fully disclose and discuss your intentions with your loan officer before you do anything financial in nature. Bottom line, you want your home purchase to go as smoothly as possible. Remember, before you make any large purchases, move your money around and make major life changes. Be sure to consult your lender, someone who's qualified to explain how your financial decisions may impact your home loan. That is the real-time real estate segment, again, brought to you by rsrmoney.com, rsrmoney.com. Continue our conversation. Sarah Perkins is with us. Blue Water Credit is the name of the company. And I'll just throw this out there real quickly for you. If you hear me mentioning creditsanitizer.com, creditsanitizer.com, it's just a domain name that I've had for many years. And it forwards to Blue Water Credit. So whenever you're hearing us talk about creditsanitizer.com on the program, that's what we're referring to. Okay, sir, I'm going to ask you one about my own personal credit report. It's pretty simple. So, you get all these solicitations for credit, and I never ever use my middle name, but just once in a while I've had it come up. So my middle name is Ivan. I don't use that very often, but I got a credit card now that says so I got a credit card that says Siegel, Ronald IV. So they've actually got me down on the credit card. If I get the statement, it's Ronald Ivan Siegel the fourth. Is that going to bother my credit scores in any way? Because I've challenged it over and over again, and it doesn't matter. It still comes back.
So that's going to be your personal information section of a credit report, which really doesn't have a bearing on your score. Where we see it come into play is there's certain data points when a credit report is pulled that they're trying to match. So if you have, your name that's not matching up with the date of birth, then your report might not be accurate. So if you start disputing stuff, and we'll see people do this a lot where they want to just get rid of all like the addresses they haven't lived at in a while. But when you remove those kind of pieces of information, then if a creditor had that on file for you, you might be missing out on getting the correct information on your credit report. So I'll see a lot of gurus that say, just clean that whole section up, dispute every single address that you're no longer at, and information that's accurate, but in turn that could hurt you with getting all the correct information populated on your credit report. And from a lending standpoint, you might not have the address history that shows where you have been. So we always just say, stay away from disputing name, social, date of birth, unless it actually is inaccurate information.
Okay, so the fact that there is no, that I know of, a Ronald Ivan Siegel the fourth, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, if there is no one out there, unless you're worried, we see this with juniors and seniors all the time, why people don't understand why if they're a junior, they have dad's stuff on the credit report. And it's because certain information has matched up well enough that they have determined they think that this account is yours. So if there is a Ron Siegel the fourth out there, you maybe want to make sure that his stuff is not getting put on your credit report. So if it is inaccurate, definitely dispute it. But if it is something that you've used, then we say just leave it there. It's not really causing you any problems with your credit score, and it can actually hurt you.
So speaking of disputes, it used to be, and I don't know whether it still is because I haven't looked into it in a long time, was that if you dispute something on a credit report, it affects, I don't know, your scores, or we would see that in lending they'd have to get rid of the dispute. What's the issue with disputes? Does it matter? Does one bank care if there's disputes on there? Give us a little insight into the dispute world.
Yeah, so if something is considered in dispute, FICO will basically not put it into consideration when determining what your credit score is. So it kind of will give you a false score. So, and most times you're disputing items that are negative. So if they're not counting those against you, it may inflate your credit score. And then when you go to finalize a mortgage loan, I know a lot of underwriters will say nothing can be in dispute. And so you have to remove those disputes, and in turn, your credit score may go down.
So the underwriter might ask to get rid of it. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, so we have to put things in dispute to be able to get them removed as far as the credit repair process. But we walk people through how to remove those disputes, because technically you can't have those when you're finishing up the loan process.
So that could, so if you see that, and it's just another reason to go back to what you said early on, was keep an eye on your credit report all the time so you know what's showing up there. And if you're going to apply for a loan and you see disputed item, Sarah just told us, your underwriter may be questioning that. And if you want to get a clean credit report, we use a service. And again, this is a forwarding address, but you can go to cleanall3.com, cleanall3.com. And that actually will give you a legitimate FICO score. It's not giving you the FACO score that we talk about or Vantage score that we talk about, but it does cost a little bit of money. I'll be very honest. I spend probably $50 a month on monitoring my credit and my wife's credit report. And it fascinates me because one of the things that I can do, not as just from my own benefit, not as well as Sarah and Blue Water Credit can do it, is I'll manipulate my score to see what's going on. So I'll let my utilization go up on a card or down on a card and see what effect that has after reporting, because I get a notice every time something gets reported on my credit bureau. So these different services will do that. You got to pay for it. If you're a nerd like me and you have no life, you might want to watch that stuff. If not, you call Sarah and they take care of it for you, because they already know those things. Another one that I see on a regular basis, Sarah, when I'm looking at credit reports, is folks that filed bankruptcy 2, 3, 4 years ago, and items that were disputed in bankruptcy are still showing on the report. What's the story with that? Do you see that? I say it's because the bureaus are in the business of keeping your score down. They make more money that way. I know you guys have to have a relationship with the bureaus, so I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But do you see that happening?
Well, when someone goes through bankruptcy, the same rules apply for those accounts, that they can stay on your credit report for up to 7 years. But with the bankruptcy, they should at least be reflecting a zero balance. It should be clearly stating that this account has been included in bankruptcy and nothing is left owing. So that's correct. The correct way that it should be reporting if you go on to have a bankruptcy, with how the account should appear on your credit report.
So it should not show that there's a past due balance or late payments or things like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it should. It may still have the payment history showing what happened prior to the bankruptcy. So it's going to include whatever delinquency happened up to that bankruptcy. When that bankruptcy happens, at that point, the debt is dissolved. So it should be reported as a zero balance account included in bankruptcy. So if it is still reporting a balance, then that is definitely something Blue Water can handle. And then if the date of first delinquency was even years before the bankruptcy, that 7 years still applies to the date that they first were delinquent. So you can see the accounts fall off, and the bankruptcy still may be on the account as on the credit as a public record, but the accounts will start to fall off.
So the accounts are going to fall off based on their original delinquency date, not based on the bankruptcy date.
Correct.
Okay, and the bankruptcy itself, how long is that going to stay? Is that 7 years also?
That's 10 years for, I believe, a Chapter 7, and then a Chapter 13, I believe, is 7 years.
There's so much here to know. And again, bottom line, we don't have to know it all. You know what you need to know? CreditSanitizer.com. It's going to go right to Sarah Perkins of Blue Water Credit. We're going to continue our conversation with Sarah when we come back. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets. You can reach me anytime. Our off-air number, 800-306-1990. 800-306-1990 or ronsiegelradio.com, facebook.com/Ron Siegel Radio. And if you miss any part of our broadcast, shame on you. But the replay is available. Ron Siegel 1 on YouTube. Ron Siegel, the number 1 on YouTube. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few.
Ron Siegel Radio, your home and mortgage connection.
Is your budget getting blown up with high prices of gas and increased costs for other household needs? This is Ron Siegel, host of the daily Home and Finance radio program. Did you know if you have a low interest rate mortgage along with auto debt, credit card debt, or student loans, your family could potentially save $500 or more per month by restructuring these debts? If you'd like a free Borrow Smart analysis with our team, let's book an appointment to see how we might be able to relieve some stress. Schedule an appointment at rsrbsa.com. That's rsrbsa.com for your free Borrow Smart analysis. rsrbsa.com.
You're listening to Ron Siegel's Home and Finance Show with local and national expert Ron Siegel. Now, here's Ron.
Welcome back to Ron Siegel Radio. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted guidance. That is my message, and I will be delivering it every day on Ron Siegel Radio or anytime at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. And as normal, I talk too much, so we're not going to get into our Credit Matters segment today. I will tell you, the Your Credit Matters segment every day is brought to you by creditsanitizer.com. You have a credit report. It's wrong. They all are wrong. I don't know where 60 Minutes got their message that 20% of them are wrong. I don't think there's 20% that are accurate, but that's just my opinion. That's Your Credit Matters, brought to you by creditsanitizer.com. Again, give us a call at 800-306-1990. We'll put you in touch with Sarah Perkins and Blue Water Credit because they can help get your credit report corrected. But I'm going to throw this out there. It may not be necessary to get it perfected. Right. And this is what I love about Blue Water Credit, because I've had many people that have told me that they'll call and they do a consultation. And one of the things in the consultation of Blue Water Credit is they want to know, what are you trying to accomplish? And our friends at Blue Water Credit know lending guidelines. And they don't know all of them. They know the credit portion of what they need to deal with. And they're going to basically say, okay, if we can get you to a 720 FICO score, your middle score, they know that there is another price break above that, but is it worth the time and expense to get there? That's one of the things that's great, because they could do like other companies, like the one that's from that bourbon city in Kentucky that, I don't know, maybe they're out of business now. And they grind the people for 12, 18 months, charging a monthly fee, and they don't get to where you need to be. And the reason they do it is they are only disputing one or two or three items at a time. They don't have the goal in mind. They don't have the end game in mind. Well, actually, yes, they do. Their end game is to charge you as much as they can. That's not the end game with our friends at Blue Water Credit. It's to get you where you need to be and get you that education. So that's why we love our friends over there. And when people ask me, well, can you give me another name of another company? And I said, no, because if you go to another company, I'm not going to have my name associated with them, because I know what you get at Blue Water Credit. So let's continue our conversation now that I've done my unpaid commercial. Statute of limitations. We've talked about that a little bit, Sarah. Statute of limitations or credit reporting. Do those things have anything to do with whether I owe the debt or not?
No. So, the statute of limitations is simply the amount of time that collector has to bring legal action against you. If there is a balance owing, you will continue to owe that balance, and they still can try to collect that balance on you. We've seen it where debts are sold over and over. Some debt by maybe it's still on there, or you don't know anything about the statute of limitations, and they're going to trick you into getting on a payment plan or paying it just out of the guilt of knowing that you still owe it. So you still technically owe the debt if there's a balance out there. Just the means of how they're able to try to enforce the collections of that debt gets taken away.
Are you trying to say that the debt collectors may not be giving you completely accurate information?
It may, and it hurts me to say that because I was one for many years. So I know all the little tricks that they try to do out there.
So let's and I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I want to get into a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I've got a little grandson. He's not anywhere close to getting credit. He's still got several years. But is there any way of helping kids that are minors start developing a credit profile?
Yeah, so it's one thing that we encourage is if you have kids and you have good credit, obviously passing that down to them can be very helpful instead of having them just kind of fend for themselves when they turn 18. So typically at the age of 14, you can pull a credit report on a minor and it can show information if they are an authorized user on one of your cards. So a lot of banks may have an age requirement of around 13, some don't, but you can add your child on as an authorized user to a card that you've had, and they start building a credit history by just basically borrowing from yours. So then that way, when they turn 18 and FICO recognizes them as an adult, they will have a score all ready to go. Because normally for FICO, you need to have 6 months of credit history. So when someone first enters the credit game, they have to go get a secured card or have someone co-sign and then wait 6 months to even get a score. So if you are proactive and add them to a card, you can help them create a score as soon as they turn 18.
Okay, so we can help help the grandkids out. I'm too old for kids under 18, but we can help the grands out when I guess I got to wait another 12 years. So I guess we're okay there. Cars, though, I mean, because I guess kids are waiting longer and longer to get cars. I mean, or get driver's licenses even. I think both my boys, my two older boys, I think were almost 18 when they got theirs. My youngest is 29. He still hasn't. I still can't get him to get one. But paying cash for a car, paying off a car, do those have any effect on my scores?
Yeah, so one of the factors of a credit score is kind of like your depth or mix of credit. So FICO wants to see accounts other than just credit card accounts. So they're going to want to see installment loans, which are typically in the form of an auto loan or educational loan. So when you have a school loan or auto loan, and actually is going to help your credit score because now you have a good mix of credit. And that's why we'll see people when they all of a sudden pay those type of loans off, they may see a temporary dip in their credit score because now they no longer have that mix of credit. So that's one of the things that Blue Water will talk to them about. Like, people will have money and think, oh, I'll just pay all these loans off. That must help my credit score because I'm lowering the amount of debt. But in turn, they're actually messing with the formula of what creates your good FICO score by getting rid of those loans.
So I'm going to ask you one other question, and Josh is probably going to shoot me here because he already gave me the warning that we're done. If I go and I win a lottery, maybe not a big one, maybe it's a 5-figure, 6-figure. Is it better for my credit score to pay down my credit cards over the next 6 months or pay them down completely all at one shot?
Well, paying them down under 10% is where you want to be, between 1 and 10%. We say 1 and 10% because we don't want you to have zero credit activity on your credit report. That will also cause your credit score to disappear. So you have to have recent activity using your credit cards within the last 6 months to produce a score. So if you pay everything off and stop using it, you can essentially see your FICO score completely disappear.
Interesting. So if you want to know about paying your credit card the right way, rsrccpayment.com, rsrccpayment.com. It's about an 8 or 9 minute video that I did. It's actually a segment of one of the radio shows where we went through and described how to pay your credit card the right way. Even if you're paying them off in full every month, pay them off, follow the formula in rsrccpayment.com, and it will help your score. And I think that the utilization is about 150 points, Sarah? Is that approximately the right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge factor. It's the number 2 factor in a score. So yeah, if you can manipulate it in a way that you can keep it between that 1 and 10%. And like you said, there is a special way to pay your credit cards if you're paying them off each month to make sure that you are getting that credit for paying them down.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate your time, Sarah. If you want more information about getting your credit corrected on your report, make sure you've got an accurate report, which more often than not means your scores are going to go up. Give me a call at 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990. I'll put you in touch with our friends at Blue Water Credit, Sarah Perkins, so that you can get the guidance you need to get your report corrected. And as always, I ask, set that first radio preset button to come back here and join Ron Siegel Radio, where we only speak about items affecting your house and your bank account. Thanks to all of our sponsors. A big thanks to Josh and Sean who are engineering us today. And of course, a special thanks to you for spending a little bit of your day with us. That's all for Ron Siegel Radio. Again, if you have any questions or to meet any of our guests, call me anytime. 800-306-1990, 800-306-1990, or ronsiegelradio.com. And remember, make a lot of money so you can help a lot of people and have a lot of fun. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Ron Siegel Radio.